Hey guys, Chris, the natural progressive. So I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe everybody. Hold on, I have got to mute my other thing. Just give me 1 second. I knew that was coming. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know why it won't let you mute it before you start. That's crap. But anyway, no one has shown up. So this is kind of screwed. I don't know if Mike is Uh, not wanting to debate this anymore. I have no idea. We've been back and forth. I went through all his stuff and then sent him stuff back, and so we've been going on the back and forth. I sent him this great website. Actually, I think I'll share that now, as long as I have you on. Um, I just got back from visiting my mother, and oh my God, I wish they had some kind of way to look up information because they're so misinformed, um, totally misinformed. And it would be super nice if they had access to something like this. I hope y'all can see this. This is called skepticalscience.com, and it's super cool because it goes through all the arguments that people uh, have about climate. So, one of the biggest things you hear right now is it's the sun, okay? And I've heard that a billion times. It's the sun. So, going on here, it's the sun, and it tells you the basic argument. The sun's energy has decreased since the 1980s, but the earth keeps warming faster than before. The that's the basic facts. It goes into more intermediate um, discussion, and then you can go into advanced depending on who you're talking to. This is a really good resource, but it talks about the climate myth. It's the sun. Over the past few hundred years, there's been steady increase in the numbers of sunspots at the time when the Earth has been getting warmer. The data suggests solar activity is influencing the global climate, causing the world to get warmer. And then it yeah, it goes through that argument and actually shows facts, figures, graphs. This is a great graph that shows the solar irradiance 11-year average compared to the temperature 11-year average. And obviously, they're going in different directions, so they're not connected. Super simple, dumb. Um, anyway, there's other things you can do. You can search, say, let's see, William Happer. So this is somebody quotes to me all the time. There's no search results, but there are blog posts matching, which means there's no research papers, but there are blog posts talking about it. So you can go through all that information um, regarding that person, that personality who's trying to uh, cast doubt on what is happening. But I like this part because this is where all the arguments come in. It's not bad, click on that and you'll go into the arguments. It's not bad. 2,000 years of published human history say that warm periods were good for people. It was a harsh, unstable dark ages and little ice age that brought bigger storms, untimely frost, widespread famine and plagues and disease. And anyway, it goes through all the arguments in detail and the research papers and everything that is showing that this is just it's a myth. It's a myth. Why it says climate meh. Models are unreliable. You hear that one a lot. animals and plants can adapt. They can adapt, but not as quickly as the temperatures and everything are changing. Hasn't warmed since 1998. Where the hell are they getting that? Antarctica is gaining ice. That's a really common one as well. And that one's kind of funny because, yeah, it's gained in the area of ice, but the ice is getting thinner and it's also undercutting underneath because of the warmer oceans. So Antarctica is losing ice. It's just not, the ice sheet may be expanding momentarily, but that the thinner the ice, the quicker it's going to melt. So anyway, I don't know what happened as far as people joining. If I can get back on here. I think I stopped. Yeah, I did. Okay, so the visit with my parents was really interesting because we were talking about, we went into Venezuela and all that too. And I can't believe the myths that are going on about Venezuela. Um, Even Tucker Carlson of Fox News understands what's going on in Venezuela. So I don't know, but um, let me see if I can. I forgot to pop out the chat, guys. Bad me. I want to see what you guys are saying because, yeah, what else do you do? I'm really sad that Osama isn't here too. I don't know if we had a miscommunication of some variety, but he is not here. So I don't know what's going on. Let me see who is here. Now I got my chat all together. So Anita's here. Hi. Ashiva, what's up? Anthony Davis. Watched the latest YouTube from Environmental Coffee House last night. It was a good one. Yeah, Antonio was amazing, but devastating when he's talking about the ocean rises. It's just crazy. Um, Hello, Adam. Welcome to the Doomosphere. Val is here. Yes, yes, why not? Here, let me give you the link. I'll just pop it in here. Since I don't know, the dude chickened out. I mean, we've been talking about it for a week, for crying out loud. Hey, yeah, yeah. And hi, Sandy. Hambone is sitting outside. I'm freezing. How is he sitting outside? And he's from Texas. Being outside, I don't know. I don't know. I gotta put my glasses on. Uh, okay. Well, tell Hambone hi, because yeah, I never know whether to call him Hambone or Sam. I mean, which personality is he at the moment? Who freaking knows, right? I don't know, but I guess Val is gonna join me because Val is awesome. Because yeah, I never know whether to call him Sam. I mean, there he is he at the moment? Who freaking knows, right? I don't know, but I guess okay, Val, you gotta there you go. You gotta mute the other window and just go into Hangout. You can pop out the chat though, so you can read it. I always have to go in and mute the damn. First, I don't know why does YouTube do that where you can't go in and mute it before you start your Hangout chat on the other window. It makes absolutely zero sense to me. Um, Anthony Davis, it's in the lower 80s now in Dallas. Well, lucky you. We're 50s today. We're in the 50s. It's like it's May. We're supposed to be in the 70s and we're in the 50s. And then we get rain for 7 days straight is the forecast. We just had a ton of rain. We don't need any more damn rain. Oh, there's Val. There's Val. How you doing? So uh so this night hasn't gone as planned. I did have the climate discussion a little bit with my parents, but that never goes well. They never believe. anything unless it's on Fox News. So, really, it's been rainy there too. We've actually had a couple of super, super nice days. It's 50 degrees in New England, and you like it. Well, I love warm weather. Hi, Maggie. I seen your new videos out. I went on and watched them, liked them, of course, because they're awesome. Very interesting. Came up with great climate news channel today. You did? Like to hear about it. Okay, can we hear you, Val? No.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
coming
go.
coming
Yeah.
in 5 by 5. I'm just trying to open up the chat. That's
Oh,
all.
okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, just do a little pop out. That should work. Fox had Orange talking trash about us lefties. Of course. Did they ever do anything different on Fox but talk bad about lefties? Climate coffin news. What do you think, guys? I like it. I like it. Are you going to start a channel on it, Adam? Because I support new channels of doomers. Big time. Big time. So let's see. Wow, I'm really sad about Osama not being on here. I even tried to call his phone, and I don't know. Maybe I hope nothing's wrong with his parents. His mother and dad have had some health issues, so I'm really hoping that's not the problem. That would be very sad. He was talking on something about trains in California and all that junk. Yeah, the big Cheeto never makes any freaking sense whatsoever. And when he does, he goes and backtracks and changes what he believes. Get this. Damn it. I have to go
Cheeto head.
there. What's that?
Your reference to our great leader, Cheeto Head.
Yeah. The great, yeah, President Cheeto. I probably shouldn't say that, just in case I have Trump supporter watchers. I mean, I can't help it. I'm sorry. He's really embarrassing sometimes. Called himself the
Did,
Terror Man.
did you ever watch his TV show?
Yeah, a couple of
I
times.
never watched it. I never seen a single episode.
I watched it a couple of times. I never thought he was very smart. And I didn't think he was a great leader. As a manager and someone who's gotten a lot of praise for my management style, I never understood his management style. I
He,
mean, it just reminded me of just the corporate assholes who don't know shit
uh,
trying to tell people who do know shit what to do. So I didn't get it.
yeah, he wasn't even funny.
No.
But George Bush, baby Bush, was hilarious. He should have been a comedian, not a president, but a comedian.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah,
he
he
would
would
have
have been
he would have
funny.
he was hilarious.
He
Everything
was just a puppet, you
just
know.
just the wars that wasn't funny, but just his
No.
Bushisms. He had a lot of famous funny Bushisms, like when he was talking
Doo-doo-doo.
about women. He said, we gotta love women. I forget the exact quote, but it was just hilarious. I'm trying to think of a funny quote of his right now. They're all hilarious. I just
No, he
he
would
he
have made a great comedian. He would have
he,
been
he,
great at
he
that.
was hilarious. And the actor,
Hi,
what
Trent.
is his name, Farrell,
Uh-huh,
Will
uh-huh.
Ferrell. They both got up at a dinner and they were kind of playing off of each other, and you couldn't tell who was who. They were both idiots.
I believe it. Yeah, oh my God, he did the best impression of him. Okay, we have Schlettler, Schlettler 100. How you doing? Got to say hi, Trumpy 5. Awesome. This is not what I intended. I'm gonna have to change the title now. It's gonna be like climate debate canceled because Mike didn't show up. So I don't know. Hopefully people got something out of that website that I found that is pretty freaking awesome for searching up climate denier myths and stuff because it's really helpful. It attaches all the research papers and everything. So it's almost as good as the one that's coming out, which is the one that tracks all the environmental changes. That database that I brought out with Jennifer Hines and Yan Willies. So anyway, it's really cool.
You know, sometimes I ask climate deniers, what are you going to say to your kids and your grandkids when you're proven wrong? When it's no doubt, when you've been
Right?
through all these years obstructing and saying it's untrue, and now that it's really happened, are you going to tell your kids, "Oh no, I was fighting the good fight," or are you going to say, "Yeah, I was an asshole and I was
Yeah.
against it"? They'll never do it. They'll never
I
admit that they were wrong.
no, I don't. I really don't think they will admit that they were ever wrong. I mean, they're going to go to their grave saying that it's natural changes in the planet.
Natural, natural cycle.
Yeah, which is
Climate change. Well, climate changes. That's what they say.
yeah, it's natural. It's cyclical. It just happens. The sun controls it more than anything else, and we're in the grand solar minimum. But then the grand solar minimum people say it's going to go into an ice age, and that the planet is actually getting colder when all the data shows that it's not.
The complete opposite.
Right. Right. I mean, did you hear what temperature it was in the Arctic this week? Did anyone hear that? It was like 84 degrees in northern Russia. It's 50 degrees here,
That's
84 in
crazy.
Russia. What?
50 degrees in Alaska. That's crazy. That's
Yeah, but 84 degrees in northern Russia, up by the Arctic. It was,
Siberia isn't the old Siberia. It's the new Siberia now.
yeah. I mean, well, Greenland isn't the icy place that, yeah.
We're
Anyway,
gonna we're gonna see Torstein in his speedos on the beach,
oh,
spearing wood.
don't bring up that name on this channel, at least not in the near future, because I'm not very happy with that person at the moment. So, yeah.
Somebody's in trouble.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. So, hmm, I am not very happy with that person. Okay, the Earth is flat. Trent Black. Trent should join us too. Human. Oh my gosh, human. Were you unsubbed to me or were you all the time not subbed to me? Because I just got a notification today that you just subbed to my channel. You're my moderator and I'm like, what the hell? But I have heard of people being unsubbed to my channel already, which is crazy. I really want to know. When I look around, I see flat Earth. Earlers. Anthony, what's natural about rapid acidification of the ocean and the death of coral reef? Maybe we need to just go nuclear. The experts claim nuclear power is cleaner. Yeah, until it gets flooded and we have Fukushima in 450 different places because most of those places are the power plants are where there's water and yeah. Paul Beck with the bait over. Hello. Yeah.
I don't think that they thought it through when they started implementing nuclear power plants after the war. Um,
No.
they just didn't think it all the way through and realize 25 years to decommission. They still don't have any place to store, bury nuclear material used.
They're doing it out here in
Oh, are they?
Utah.
Lucky you. Hope it's not near you.
It's fairly close to me. Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy. Another,
it's in the desert out here.
that's
They
another
call it the West Desert.
civilization.
It's out here. I live kind of in the West Desert, and it's in the West Desert. So
Why do they keep trying to piss you off?
I don't know, but I was
all,
born to
all
be
they need
pissed.
to do now is like put a ban on horses or something. And I get really pissed with this BLM runs the horses that they sell them to pet food and stuff like that. It really pissed. I lived in Reno for a while. Went out to there and saw the.
Nevada hates wild horses. They
Yeah.
hate wild horses. I found that out when I was looking at land out there, and I read about how they don't want horses. When unsubbing and subbing again puts you at the top of the list for advertising purpose. What? You unsubbed and then subbed again? Okay, I don't understand, human. Interactive planet map for weather, earthnullskull.net. Check out that um, link human put there. That's a good one too. Um, let's see. A rod in a nuke plant is good for 6 years and dangerous for 250,000 years. Yeah, yeah. I heard that today or yesterday. I don't know. I listen to too much shit and trying to contain all that information in my brain and have it able to put it out is almost impossible. I remember the gist of it. The list of channels is listed by newest first. Oh, okay. Hmm, that's interesting, human. I was like, but I don't know why you weren't subbed to me in the first place. Okay, so you unsubbed and then subbed again. Okay, that, just to put you, okay. Thank you for that. That's pretty cool. Appreciate it. Trent, did you want to jump on? See if your thing works? Do you have the new phone yet? Since my debate got, do you think he chickened out? I find, okay, he's been sending
Yeah.
me stuff
I
for
think
like
he
a
figured it
month.
out.
I sent him stuff for like a, or he sent me stuff for like a month, and I just kind of answered it vaguely. And then I finally went in and looked at all the stuff that he sent me and really looked at it, and then sent him back like, no, this, and this, no, this, and this on all the stuff he sent me. And then he just stopped responding. But that was after we already set up the date. So I don't know. I figured he was waiting to talk about it tonight. Uh, no, you haven't paid yet. You don't have, so you still have the old phone. Well, dang it. Buck Hermit. What about Buck Hermit, Sandy? He's still around, I think. He loves it when I talk about the population stuff. He just doesn't believe in the climate stuff. No, it wasn't Buck Hermit. Oh, okay. So you're asking. It wasn't Buck Hermit. It was Michael Holtz. I think his YouTube thing is Holtz Michael. He was supposed to be on the debate. So yeah, I don't know. So what else is going on, Val? I know you probably had a lot more time to look at what was going on. Is it Osama?
It
Osama,
is. Look, I left the dark.
There he is.
you're
Oh,
awesome.
that's
Yeah.
better. How you doing?
Hey, you made it. Look, we have Val
Yeah.
with us.
Hey,
Apparently
Val.
my debate chickened out.
Really? That's too bad.
Yeah.
You were gonna fillet him.
Well, I finally went through all the shit he sent me and like really went through it, and I'm like, oh my god, no, this is it. And answered him back a whole bunch of stuff and sent him back other information, and that was after we already set the time and date. So I figured he didn't respond after that, so I figured he was gonna just talk about it on this. And so I don't know. I think he chickened out. I would like to believe he chickened out.
You got denied. You got denied
I know. I really wanted to have that conversation.
by a denier.
It's like, okay, I just had that conversation with my parents, and you can't do it with your parents as much as you would with someone you don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have to be more careful
Uh-huh.
than with someone you don't know. I mean, I still plan to be respectful no matter what, but
Right.
if it's somebody you don't know, you can push a little harder than with your own parents that raised you and changed your diapers and shit. It's like a little different story. Uh, let's see. The dude, a flat out climate change deniers. Yeah, he was a pretty, yeah, climate change denier guy. Tell them to be spontaneous. That's what happens. Hey,
Oh, I
Veg is here.
gotta find the chat here.
Yeah, get your chat popped out. It takes a second. Pretend to advocate as a denier. A denier. Pick a good time to show. Let's see. Schlettler. I like that name, Schlettler. Farmers have no. Oh, the crop situation is insane. Just heard a story about that. Not planted yet because the excess rain fields are never dried out and no one is talking about it. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, no crops planted out there. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
drove up. I
insane.
drove up to Virginia, from Virginia to New York. Not one bug hit my windshield the entire trip. 7 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Not one.
What's his name? Sam Hambone was just when he was driving into New York. From I guess Ohio to New York. He said he had maybe 10 splats on his windshield, 500 miles. He saw more dead deer on the side of the road than bugs. Is that insane or what? Oh, he's here. Mike is here.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
made it.
Can you hear me?
Can Mike hear me? Can you hear me,
Yep.
Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
But you can't hear me. I
Can
can't
you hear
believe it.
me?
I can hear you. Can you hear Osama?
No, I can't.
What is with that? That is so weird. I'm gonna have to play translator.
Yeah,
Tell
try
them to
see if you can hear hear Val.
Can you hear Val?
You hear me?
No.
Testing.
I can't hear Val.
You can't hear Val?
No.
Uh-uh.
Okay, try to unmute.
Yeah, I
in
see
the
him
Chrome
talking, but I
browser.
can't hear him.
In the browser, go to where it says mute. Right click on your browser, and it says mute or unmute. Not inside this program, but the Chrome browser.
Okay, go into the Chrome browser, I guess.
Yes.
Me or them? Or
Them. Tell them to go into the Chrome browser.
Okay, I'll try that.
go into the Chrome.
Right click and look on the menu, and it'll say mute or unmute.
Yeah, right click, and it should say mute or unmute. And where the dots are, or where the, or just in the.
Let me do it. Let me try it. Okay.
Okay, sorry guys.
Okay. Okay, what they do is click on the tab Google Hangouts, and then right click on there, and it will bring down a slight menu, and it'll have mute site or unmute site.
When I do that, I don't see those options, but.
Well, you go to the top of the browser where it says Google Hangouts, and you right click, and then
I have to expand it so it's not.
well, you just go to the tab at the very top where it says Google Hangouts, and you right click on it, and it'll say new tab, reload, duplicate, pin tab, and underneath that it'll say mute site.
I don't have that option on mine.
Are you using Chrome?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the way I got it going here is I've got it muted on the YouTube channel where I can see the chat, and on the Google Hangouts, I've got it. It's not muted, and
can you figure that out, Osama? Can you hear Val, or did Osama leave? Osama left, huh?
he may be going in and coming back, or going out and coming back in.
Okay. Anyway, we can get started anyhow. Can you hear Val now, or just me?
Just you.
Okay. Anyway. So, guys, this is Mike. He has some issues with my with my positions on climate change, and I really want to know what your differences are to begin with, because there's several. I mean, you sent me lots of links, and I went through them, and none of the links that you sent me convinced me that my opinion is wrong. Just because looked into those people and their theories, and they don't go along with science, like the majority of science in science papers. So please tell me where I am mistaken.
Well, the biggest single issue here is that the media is really overhyped the whole issue. I mean, yes, climate change is an issue. It is going on, but it's measured in geologic time. It's not measured in, in the course of a human lifespan. Glaciers for, the glaciate, the receding of the glaciers, for example. Other parts of the world, they're not even reporting on, like in New Zealand, Mount Lassen, Mount Shasta, the glaciers are actually growing. That's something that's not being reported on. I mean,
But
Mount
that's the
Lassen.
exception, not the rule.
No, you need to have two things for the glaciers to grow. One is temperature, and the other is precip. And if one or the other is missing, you won't have glaciers. So in the Alps, the glaciers are retreating not because of the lack of temperature or the increase in temperature, but just due to the lack of precip. There's been a slight variation in the North Atlantic Oscillation that carries the precip that comes into Central Europe a few miles more northward than it has in the past. And that's just normal phenomenon. It happens. It's cyclical. If you look at the data that the news reports, they say, okay, we had a record temperature back in 1930, the Dust Bowl days or something like that. They'll also show highs and lows of, temperatures that they've recorded over the last, say, 100 years or so. And you'll see that there have been some, pretty dramatic temperature variations in the
But we're
last
having
100 years.
exponential temperature rising and CO2
We haven't
rising.
had we haven't had an exponential rise in temperature. It just hasn't happened. I mean,
But we've had we're at 1.5 C over the industrial age right now. And
that's
if
a
we get
myth.
to 2, that's going to be ridiculous.
That's
Yeah, that's
funny.
a myth.
That's a myth. That's entirely not true.
Sorry, it's just something that's just
You're just making
factually not true.
You're just making stuff up
Because they can't compare.
Where are you getting this information? Are you going to NOAA and NASA and
Yes.
really? Because that's not what that shows.
What they're showing is the variation. It's a temperature variation.
Well, they show anomalies, but then they show the increase since way back when, and it's the planetary average.
Chris, can you ask him something?
That's a variation, a normal variation that we see since the data set began.
Chris, can you ask him
something?
And
in order to
Tell
say
me
that there's, I'm just going to splat it on the wall here to show global warming, they'll have to actually go back about 1,000 years, and then you can say, okay, now we have X amount.
That is not true.
Yeah,
that is not true.
Because
hey, Val, will you do me a favor?
Let's stop him here for a second.
Hold on, just 1 second. 1 second.
Ask him, how does he explain the increased measurement of CO2, the millions of parts per million? Okay, it was 280 in the 50s. It's now over 400. Now we have very sensitive instruments.
God, I wish I could hear that.
Instruments. How does he explain the increase in CO2?
Hold on. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play my other YouTube thing and let you ask the question, and then I'll come back and I'll unmute it. So hold on, keep quiet. There's going to be a little bit of a lag. So okay, Go ahead, Val. Go ahead,
How,
Val.
how do you account for the increase of CO2 from the 1950s that was about 280 to now it's over 400, about 410? We have very sensitive measuring instruments. How do you account for this increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? It's just, what are you going to claim? It's not true? They're making it up?
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
I can't respond to anything he said because I couldn't hear him. So
Oh, really? You couldn't hear that?
no, I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, he wants to know how you can account for the increase in CO2 levels since the night. Tell me again. Hold on. Let me just repeat what he says. Since when? Because it's increased
1950. It was
since
below
1950, but it's
about
never been
280, and now it's over 400. We know we have very sensitive instrumentation.
we
This
have
is
very sensitive instrumentation.
so. How does he account for this increase in CO2?
How do you account for that increase in CO2 that quickly?
Well, it depends on what the base value was. The one thing I'd like to
It
point
was
out
200 and 200, right on 200 something, and now it's 400 and
280. It had
it was
been
280. Now it's up to 407, 215.7 is what it's at right now.
okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at the data recently, so I can't say. When I was in college, the data showed there was like 100. It was 300 and
It's never been. What has it, Val? I don't think it's been 300 back in. Well, how long ago were you in?
Goodman started this
10 years ago.
350.org
10
about
years ago?
5 years
Yeah.
ago, and it was hovering around 350. It is over 400 now. We
It
have
was hovering around
sensitive.
350 5 years ago. Now it's up over 415. So that's a really huge increase in a very, very short period of time. And I would like to say that Antarctica, even though the expanse may be showing growth, the density and the thickness is shrinking. Especially, it's a lot of undercutting because of the warmer oceans when they do that testing. So even though it looks like the expanse may be a little bit bigger, there's less ice there. For it just looks like it if you just do the satellite picture. If you actually measure the density, it's a lot thinner. And then if you go up to Arctica, the North Pole, it's shrinking exponentially. It started melting a month and a half earlier than it normally does. And it was up in northern Russia this week. It was over 80 degrees this week up by the Arctic. That's insane. That's not normal. You can't say that's normal, and you can't say the ice is going to stay there with those kind of temperatures up there. Because last time I heard, ice melts in the 80-degree temperatures.
Mhm.
That doesn't scare the shit out of you.
No, it doesn't, because a lot of those figures are contrived. I'd
Really.
like to
So
say
NASA and NOAA and all that contrive these figures.
just do a Google spot check, and you can see whether or not those are going on. I mean, those if you go into Google, do a spot check, put in temperature Barrow, Alaska, like I did last week. It showed the temperature well within the normal range of the time of year. So, and same thing
Really?
in Panama City. There's when they talk about the temperatures rising exponentially, they're talking about aloft in the higher atmosphere, and those are the warm winds that bring warm, moist air to the polar regions that end up coming back as precipitate. So essentially it just makes a snowstorm.
Okay, it was 84 degrees in northern Russia this weekend, 3 days ago. That's contrived. That's made up.
I would say so.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Ask him. Ask him.
It just sounds too. It sounds too hyperbolic to be true. Sorry, I can't swallow that one.
Wow.
That
Oh man.
that's,
So you're not going to double check it in any way, shape, or form?
well, I can. Let's see here. You got the name of the city that it was?
It says Northern Russia. Let's see.
I want to know what kind of engineer this guy is. I think he's a sanitation engineer.
What kind of engineer are you, by the way?
I'm a forester.
A what? A forester?
Yes, I have a degree in forestry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then another one in forest products.
So did you
And
know
frequency
what
wave in Arkhangelsk.
Archangels.
I can't speak freaking Russian. A Western Russian outpost located on the northern Dvina River.
Yeah.
So, hey Val, will you Google that or find?
Okay. Spot check says 5 degrees C,
Google what?
which is well within the normal range.
Hold on. Let me. This was over the weekend.
I have hay fever, and so my eyes are watering something terrible. Sorry if I'm rubbing my eyes here.
Ask them how Vietnam had the highest temperature of 120 degrees in April ever, of any month. It's the highest temperature ever recorded in Vietnam in April. And it wasn't just for April, it was for ever.
Vietnam, highest temperature recorded ever. Like ever. We're hitting record after record. All these records. What about Australia?
Yeah, ask them about those bats. Thousands of bats.
All the bats dropping dead in Australia.
How does he explain that? What is it? Just cycles? That's what he keeps saying is cycles. It's all cycles.
Yeah, it's not cyclical to have 150 to 200 species going extinct every single day. That's not a cyclical thing. Usually it takes a lot longer for animals to go extinct. We're losing so many species. And okay, I could just blame it on human overpopulation, overdevelopment, over mining, and all that as well. That could possibly explain it. But then you got to talk about human overpopulation being a huge, enormous problem, which people who usually deny climate change will also not accept the fact that there is such a thing as human overpopulation and that we are affecting the planet in a negative way. What's your opinion on that?
Are you asking me or?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, because I saw the other fella's lips moving in the screen down there, so I didn't want to run over top of him. I'm trying to be courteous here and let him say his piece, so that way we're not running over top of each other.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, the species die off, of course. Yeah, it's a concern. Whether or not we're losing 150 species a day, that would be extremely, that'd be an exponential factor.
It's probably closer to 200 and maybe more by now.
Yeah, I would doubt that. I mean, if 1 or 2 species a day were going extinct, I'd be ringing the alarm bell.
Well, then you should be dinging it really long and hard because we're losing several. The koala bear just barely. It's functionally extinct. There's not enough mating pairs to keep it alive as a species. We're just, and this isn't just animals. This is plants too. But this is our biosphere that we depend on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And it includes microorganisms as well. So when you consider the soil is dying to where we're not going to be able to produce food anymore, there's a lot of dead earth, and chemical fertilizers can't replace all the microorganisms needed to grow soils. Plus, then there's the pollinators that are disappearing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you discount climate change as an issue, okay, my biggest thing is the overpopulation, pollution, destruction of our biosphere. And I think that's going to happen before climate change gets us. But we're going to run out of food. We're going to run out of clean water just because of all the pollution. There's just too many damn people on this planet. It's just a fact. We're totally overpopulated.
Yeah, well, maybe that might not be such a bad thing, you know, if that's an issue, you know, or an issue that you're concerned with, that would just be about, you know, basically a biological reset of the population. You know, populations wax and wane. They do crash from time to time. You see that in the natural world all the time with lemmings, mice, rodents, you know, of all sizes and variations.
We're
Where
being
they're
lemmings right now, and we're walking right off the cliff, and we're dragging a whole bunch of species with us.
might not be a bad thing, you know.
Well, hey, welcome to the Doomosphere.
You know,
Hey, by the way, just a quick
population,
comment.
yeah,
Can I read a comment from one of our chatters? You'll
sure,
like it.
go right ahead.
Mike, I actually respect the fact that you came here to debate, even if I have different views. Very cool of you to do so, and super cool thanks, Maggie, of me for having the debate. Well, yeah, but yeah, thank you for coming on. I know you're like, you're not in your zone with all your people supporting you. I kind of am, so it's kind of not fair that way.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we don't make. Yes, hold on. Val has a
Can you
question.
ask him to explain the scientific method?
Oh, Val wants you to explain the scientific method.
Oh boy, we don't have all. Well, we just don't have that amount of time.
No,
Sorry.
it's just a simple,
Just a brief description.
scientific. It's very simple.
You know, Occam's razor. I'm sure you guys have heard the term. Usually, the simplest explanation is the correct one.
He's wrong. He doesn't have a clue.
I've been collecting my own weather data, so to speak, for it's anecdotal at this point, but so far it doesn't jive with what
He doesn't have a clue what he's talking
what the media has been spouting off, you know.
No, but okay, I have the exact opposite experience because what I'm experiencing, what I am seeing, goes right along with what they're saying. So I'm really confused, and I have friends, especially having this channel. I get the opportunity to have friends kind of all over the world, and I get the benefit of what they see and what they're observing, and what I'm observing. It's pretty freaking scary. I mean, I started out driving around and seeing like all the reservoirs dried up. We had several years of drought and a lot of extreme heat even for Utah, and now we're in this super weird funky phase, and so it just goes right along with the weather weirding and the jet stream being completely messed up. And if you understand weather, then you understand what happens when the waters warm up north, and it just opens the jet stream up to wiggle a little bit more, and that's why it was so cold in up in the Midwest and the East.
Yeah.
It's there's something going on. You have to admit that, and it's a lot more extreme than it's ever been. And with all the flooding, I mean, how do you explain all of that flooding everywhere? It's in Idaho, it's in California, it's all over the Midwest. It's just everywhere. And then there's places that are getting the sea rise is already pushing them inland, where they're going to have to uproot themselves and move inland. So is that just cyclical? It's happening so freaking fast.
Well, to go back to some anecdotal data here, when I went to Washington, D.C. my senior year of college, the NSA called me in for an extensive interview, and I took the train from Spokane to Washington, D.C., and there was some extensive flooding in northern Minnesota, going across the Great Plains up in there, and that was due to just a weather event where it had been frozen up to that point, and then a Chinook came, thawed the snow, then a rain came on top of that, melted more snow, flooded everything because the water couldn't absorb into the ground. I mean, it's just one of those, shit happens.
Oh, yeah, shit does happen. Okay, let me tell you. Okay, first of all, Sandy from Environmental Coffee House was kind enough to let us know about the steps because she's in education. That was her profession. She said, step 1, ask a question. For the first step, help your child form a question, hopefully one that can be answered. Step 2, do background research. Step 3, conduct hypothesis. Step 4, test your hypothesis by doing an experiment. Step 5, analyze the data and draw conclusions. Step 6, share your results. So yeah,
He forgot one step. The most important step in science is that other scientists have to replicate scientists have to replicate your experiment.
Oh yeah, other scientists have to be able to replicate it.
And that is how science
over and over again.
And that is how science is science. You just can't say, hey, I have a pink unicorn in my yard. Just take my word for it. You have to have other people come over and say, yeah, he's got a pink unicorn in his yard. So he doesn't really understand how science works. It's not Occam's razor.
Okay, we got it. Just 1 second. So yeah, other scientists have the ability to test your results, and if they get the same results, that's what the research papers are. And when they publish a paper, and then there's peer reviews of those papers, and if other scientists do the same tests and don't get the same results, they can debunk those papers. If that isn't if they can debunk them, great, and that changes all the whole results of the whole thing. But if they cannot, then that holds true. And the fact that human caused climate change, global warming exists, has been tested up to the point of the gold standard. So it's been tested and tested so many times that there is nobody that can argue with it at this point. There hasn't been one scientist who has actually been able to go through the research papers and debunk it. So I mean, there's a couple of fringe scientists that say, no, you're wrong, but a couple. I mean, I found two that have some kind of a following, but they're a joke in my book. The things they talk about, it's always about Democrats and Republicans. And once you bring in politics to it, that's not science, because science is political. I don't want to talk about politics or industry or anything like that. I'm sure industry will try to co-opt the information to try to profit off of it. I'm absolutely certain of that. No matter what the research says, they will try to find a way to profit off of the analysis. That's what they do. That's what capitalism does, and it's killing us.
Well, it could, but here's my point. The media grabs onto something, they hear something, and they're just a mouthpiece for a higher political agenda. And
absolutely, you're not going to get
this whole thing has been hyperbolic. It's just been overinflated to the point where it's actually ridiculous, because there are lots of scientists.
I don't think it's overinflated. I think it's underinflated. And it's okay. I'm sorry. I will let you finish. I promise.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I will wait till you're done. Go ahead.
The overinflation of it is such that now I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
I get too passionate about this. I am very sorry. I'm trying to be a good hostess, whatever.
I've had the benefit of living on 2 different continents in several different ecotones. Now, an ecotone is basically maritime climate versus continental climate. You're living in a continental climate, and you're going to see a whole different set of temperature ranges. That's just normal. And so right now I'm living in essentially a maritime climate. although I'm not anywhere close to the sea, but the weather pattern here where I'm at is governed by the North Atlantic Oscillation, in other words, the Gulf Stream. And so our weather is pretty much dominated by that effect. You're in the Great Basin ecosystem, and that place just has some crazy ass weather. It's just,
Well, it's pretty normal for us to have some crazy weather.
yeah.
I'm going to let you answer questions from the chat and,
Okay.
and pretty much shut up, but I just want to make the one point. And yes, we have always had pretty varied weather.
Yeah.
It is way weirder than normal though here. And we haven't had the variance that some other places have had. We've just been a lot more wet and cool this
Yeah.
year. And it hasn't been that drastic yet. But there's other places surrounding us that have. But anyway, as far as I think the media has been underplaying it, just playing it just enough to try to push through the Green New Deal, which would be a huge advantage to capitalists. But you know, to make money off of stuff which would actually devastate the planet even more, in my opinion. I don't have a popular opinion there, but that's just my opinion. But I don't think they're bringing it up to the extent that they need to. They're not really. They spent 15 minutes on the latest UN biodiversity report. It warranted a 24/7 news cycle for at least a couple forever until something was done. But okay, that is my say. Now I'm going to turn it over to the chat and let them ask questions, and I will completely shut up and let you do all the talking from the questions. Okay, is that fair?
I guess if you want to do it that way.
I mean, if that's okay with you, I just,
Sure. It's your
why
show.
not?
Yeah. It's your
It is.
show.
It's actually my chatter show more than mine. So, first of all, there's a comment from Oz. He's my engineer guy. Says your guest may want to come back next year and tell us if they have a chance of position yet. I'm confident, by the way, 97% of scientific community who say the planet is burning up. Okay, come on, guys. I need questions for him.
Well, let me jump on that one there for just a short minute.
Sure.
The idea that 97% of all scientists agree, that statement in and of itself is just absolutely ludicrous, because when has science ever agreed on anything?
Several times, but I mean, we all agree there's gravity, right? We all agree there's the sun.
Well, there's some people that would argue against it, you know, I mean.
But there's certain things
they're out there.
Nobody is arguing. Nobody is arguing that there's not gravity. They're arguing about what gravity is. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, Val, he can't hear you. So ask your question in the chat and I'll ask it. Could you please? Because because I know people can hear you, but I mean that are gonna watch this, but Mike can't hear you. So let's see. I know there's a question. I saw one. Where did it go? Can you specify the media that is in your opinion, talking about climate change?
Television.
Television, like just all television?
Well, yeah, that's the main, the main media that we rely on. Granted, you hear it in the radio too, and then also in print media. But overall, when you look at who the ownership constellation of the media conglomerates as such, it's in the hands of a few people. There's very few independents out there on the market right now. With the advent of the internet, we've had an increase in independent media formation, but there again, the main news cycle is dominated, or the national news cycle is dominated by the few that hold all the reins of power, so to speak, in one hand.
There's like 5 or 6 media companies that own it all.
Chris?
Yes?
There is not, as far as I
can there's very few. There's like a half a dozen, something like that. I think you're correct in that one.
There is not one single show on TV about climate change. Not one.
Yeah, there's not one major media outlet that covers climate change.
They have a blurb.
Oh yeah, CNN all the time.
No, they really don't. They really don't. It is disgusting how little they cover climate change. They may mention it.
If
Um, I don't know.
MSNBC is one of the big ones too. You know,
if
they're, of
he's saying the media is
course, they're.
he's saying that the media
It's kind of fallen more into the background now with this orange man bad, narrative that they're on. So
Well, it's
if
kind
they
of
could, they'd
embarrassing
probably
having
play
an
the whole
orange
thing on
man.
Trump.
Yeah.
Chris,
Okay.
Chris, if
Yeah.
if the media was
Hold on a second.
having climate change shows all the time, there would be a weekly show, This Week in Climate. There is not one single climate show, regular show on CNN, MSNBC, CBS. None of them have a regular climate show. He's just
Right.
making this up. They have a 1 minute blurb here and there, and he's saying the media is talking about it all the time.
Right. The media is really not okay, what Val was saying was if they were talking about, they'd have a regular show about it because it is that big of an issue, and there isn't any channel that has a regular show about what's going on with the climate and how bad it is. There just isn't. There isn't one. The most I've seen coverage on the major media was CBS, and they did like a 2 minute thing the day that report came out, and the next day they did it again, only on the morning news, not on the nighttime news or noon news, just in the morning. That was it, and they were done. So I don't think they cover it. I have not. I mean, they do cover, making fun of Ocasio-Cortez for the Green New Deal or whatever, which is, I'm sorry, that's not a big thing for me. Did you guys have any? They don't really have any questions because they're like, I'm sorry, Mike. They're just like, oh my god, they probably want to pull their hair out. But
Chris, ask him what he will do if he's wrong. That if
okay, what will you do if you're wrong, Mike? And then, do you have kids? I'm just wondering.
Yes.
Do you have kids?
Yeah.
How old are they?
She's 18 now.
Okay, I have all my kids are in my 20s, and I know that they're going to live a horrible. They're not going to even live to the age I am right now. I'm 48, and they're not going to be able to live as long as me. I mean, if they do, they'll be lucky, and it'll be a miserable life. If you're wrong about this, and you're not doing everything you possibly can to mitigate it, to slow it down, to let other people know, how will you feel about it if you were absolutely wrong and you find out about it, like, next year there's a blue ocean event and there's extreme food loss, which is coming up, because we were just talking before you popped on about what's happening with the crops in the Midwest and how such a small percentage of the crops have actually been able to be planted at this point because of all the flooding there. What are you going to tell your children when all hell breaks loose?
Well, I'd stand corrected, of course, but from the data that I've collected over the years, and from the historical data that you look at in the archives, I'm just not seeing it. I mentioned to you earlier in our emailing back and forth, and then also in the posts on the comments in YouTube. There's been warming periods and cooling periods. The medieval
But not
warming.
this dramatic, not this quick.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
No, that is factually incorrect. It is way faster than ever recorded. There's records. The last 4 of the last 5 years have been record hot years. That's a fact.
When the Romans occupied England, they grew wine up there. To this day, you can't grow wine in England. I mean, you can grow a grape here and there, but
what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? The average global temperature has risen exponentially, and we've had 4 out of the 5 last years be all-time record hot years. I don't understand how that's hard to comprehend, and the science says that it's not. It's an actual factual data that you cannot deny.
That's based on the data collection.
No, that is average global temperature. Average global temperature. I don't know how much more simple that could be.
Like I said, there's been warming periods in the past, and there's been global cooling periods in the past.
But this is all-time records. All time.
Yes.
There's never.
Those records have been what you're talking about have been broken in the past.
No, these are
Yeah,
all time
50 million years.
records. All time records. Okay, the last 4 years. Record hot year, record hot year, record hot year globally.
No, last year for us wasn't a global hot year over here.
Well, for you
It
maybe,
wasn't
but
very good.
global, it doesn't mean there are going to be differences in locations. That's weather. I'm talking about overall climate. That's a different thing. Climate is different than weather.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that simple
Yeah.
concept, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Just
Ask him to
making
explain the
sure.
difference between climate and weather. What is the difference between climate and weather?
Okay, Val wants to know if you know the difference between, which I just asked. You said you know the difference. What is the difference?
Climate is basically the prevailing weather pattern in a given area. Now, there are some extremes in the weather, and you're going to see that due to a whole host of factors. And the single largest one is, and this is something that's never talked about, is due to the sun.
Oh God, no.
That's what
That
is
is the stupidest thing. It's like 0.1% is all the difference that makes in the climate. 0.1%. Yes. Okay, I will pull that up right now. I have no problem pulling that information up right now on my very favorite thing. It's a really good website. I shared it with you, I think. It's a really super great website.
Tell him that actually right now the sun is slightly cooler, very slightly cooler. It is not.
The sun is slightly cooler right now. Okay, so this is a really cool website. I was just showing people before you got on too. And this is skeptical science, and it goes through all the stupid myths that people want to talk about. And it's the sun is the number one thing that people go on about. It's not the sun, and it shows the myth, and you can look through it and you can double check it with scientific papers, scientific reports. It's right here. It says the myth, the sun. Oh my gosh, that's the biggest freaking bullshit story on the planet. You can read this if you would like, but I suggest you go to this, and you can look it up in other ways. It will cross-reference. If you go into the advanced, you can go into the sources and everything else. If you really want to get technical, it goes into all the graphs and all the differences. I mean, this is the science. This is from scientific papers, and you can look for yourself and see that it's not the frickin' sun. We make a way bigger difference. We're 3% of the contributed factor. The sun is 0.1%. It's almost not even relevant. So please, if I did not send you this website, I thought I did. I will send it to you, and you can look for yourself. And it's ridiculous. All these myths are going around, and people don't understand that they're being lied to. It's all being confused so that they can go along their happy way and keep manufacturing shit, so we'll still keep consuming shit, and people will keep having babies so they can grow all their profits. And it's just ridiculous. It's all a big freaking scam from the elite. All of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that one, a whole 100%. But if the sun were, let's paint the devil on the wall. Say the sun were to go out tomorrow, life on this crazy rock would cease in
Of course it would.
That's the main driving force. It's
not. No, okay. Research it first. Go into the scientific papers, not just that jerk off who's telling you that. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 people that are talking about this, and most scientists know that it's only a small.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. Mercury is closer to the sun than Venus, but guess what? Venus is hotter than Mercury.
Mercury is closer to the sun than Venus.
Mercury is closer to the sun than Venus.
But Venus is hotter than Mercury because of the atmosphere effect. So it's not the sun. I mean, the sun will have an effect, yes, Yes, if we
We
get mass
absorb.
parental injections and crap like that, then we'll
Yeah.
have some serious issues. Yeah,
Okay.
but
The figure you just threw out there, that 0.3%, that's how much of the sun's energy we absorb.
no, point one. It's we contribute 3% of
Point
the
or
problem.
1.1%. That's the amount of solar energy
0.1%.
that we can absorb that the sun generates,
Look, Chris,
and
ask
that's
him.
enough to sustain life on this planet.
Chris, ask him
That
how
0.1%
is
of the
it
sun's
possible?
energy.
How is it possible that Mercury is closer to
Now,
the sun?
sunspot activity is a whole different ball of wax, and there's a lot of debate still going on about, the sunspot
I
activity and how
asked
it affects weather and climate and so forth.
her.
There's years where you have increased sunspot activity, and then others where there's a lull. I think we're in a
Okay,
lull
everybody
right
thinks
now.
you're a
If I'm
cokehead, like Koch brothers, like pushing their agenda. Um, sorry.
Chris, Chris,
I
sorry,
mean,
that's just
you're not going to convince
Chris,
me. I've talked to scientists. I talk to
yeah.
researchers. That's what I do. I interview them, and other than a couple of nutty cases out there like Piers Corbin and William Happer, most people understand that the sun has very little effect on the climate.
No,
It's
it has a huge effect
no,
on it.
that's
no,
not true.
no.
Ask
You
him.
are
Yes.
losing all your credibility with that one statement because
No.
everybody here knows that
Okay,
that is absolutely false.
ask him how is it possible?
If it were
that,
false, we wouldn't have life on this planet.
no.
No,
Ask him,
that makes absolutely no sense at all. At
ask him,
all.
Chris,
The atmosphere is way more important than the sun.
Chris,
There's a whole host of contributing factors, and
Well,
the
yeah,
single
it's a
largest
delicate
one
balance.
is the energy input from the
no,
solar system.
no. Chris, ask him how is it
Without that solar energy, we wouldn't have the evaporation.
no,
I've
no.
got a video in my lineup that shows one of the driving
I've
engine
watched
of
all those
wood
stupid
grain.
videos. You don't understand. Every
No,
time I do a video,
hold
I
on.
get the deniers throwing up these stupid videos. I had to block all websites from my comments because I was sick and damn tired of getting the same damn videos over and over again, and they're all the same damn thing about how the
Yeah.
sun affects climate more than anything else, and that is so stupid, and it's been disproven over and over and over and over again. Look
Chris,
it up. It's not that hard.
Chris,
I have.
Chris, tell him to hold it
Obviously
for a second.
not.
Ask
Yes, I
him,
have.
ask
Not
him
for
how,
scientists.
ask him how Mercury is closer to the sun than Venus by about 30 million miles, but
How
Venus
is
is hotter
Mercury? Why
than
you type
Mercury.
this in so I can read it? Why
Okay,
is
Mercury is closer to the sun than Venus. Venus is hotter than Mercury. And the reason why Venus is hotter than Mercury is because of the carbon dioxide on Mercury or Venus. So how can he
okay?
explain that
The
a planet
carbon
that is closer?
dioxide is higher on Venus. Right?
Yes,
Say that. Okay, then Mercury. That's why Venus, even though it's farther away, is hotter than
yes,
Mercury.
yes. So
Okay,
how does he explain that?
so
How does
how
he
do you
explain a
explain
planet
that?
that is closer to the sun than Venus is cooler than Venus? How does he
Yeah,
explain that?
the planet closer to the sun has less carbon dioxide, is cooler than
Yes,
Venus, who is
yes.
further away from the sun and has more carbon dioxide.
And
How do
it's
you
hotter,
explain
800 degrees
it's 800 degrees
on Venus.
hotter?
So how does he explain that?
How do you explain that? Yeah, explain that.
It's real simple. Mercury's atmosphere boiled off a long time ago due to the fact the planet only has a fraction of the mass of Venus. It's the smallest, one of the smaller planets in the solar system, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
And so it just doesn't have the mass to maintain an atmosphere. Same thing with Mars. Mars lost its atmosphere a long time ago. It still has one, but it's also mainly carbon dioxide. And
no, that's
it
not
should
true.
have,
That is
you
not
know,
true.
That's not true.
look it up.
It
Mars
has
still has an
it has a
atmosphere, but
large
it's
amount of
mostly
carbon
carbon dioxide.
dioxide, but it's not mostly carbon dioxide.
It's
In
not
fact,
mostly. It has
Mars is a very, very thin atmosphere. Okay, whatever carbon dioxide that's on it is practically insignificant for warming. That's why it's a very cold planet. The fact is that he's
I-
spewing
hold on.
bullshit that Mercury is like 40 million miles closer to the sun than Venus, yet Venus is about 800 degrees. Mercury's about
God, I wish
250
I could hear Val.
degrees. So how does he explain why the closer planet is
He says
cooler
it's
than
smaller,
the
Val.
further?
He
Explain
says it's smaller. So
the size doesn't matter. You put it, the
he
temperature.
says the atmosphere burned off, but if it has carbon
Okay,
dioxide,
that's true. The atmosphere is burned off, but that's the point. The reason why Venus is much harder than Mercury is because of the very thick carbon dioxide atmosphere. It's not the distance from the sun. He was trying to say that, the sun's getting harder and that's why we're getting hotter. It's not the distance from the sun, it's the atmosphere. He
he
just
says
proved
not
his
the distance from
point.
the sun, it's the atmosphere.
The atmosphere is
There's
what
still
caused
carbon
heat.
dioxide atmosphere, and that's why it's hotter, even though it's further away. So I don't understand. I don't understand your point of view. It doesn't make logical sense to me at all. I believe in scientists. I don't believe in fringe people that are just trying to make a name for themselves, or maybe they're being paid off by politicians or the elite to cause confusion with the issue. But I believe scientists. Now, also, I think a lot of the scientists are being really um, let's see. They're not telling the whole entire truth. They're afraid to tell the whole entire truth. But I know that there's a lot of uh, uh, stress in the scientific community. When I was just talking, do you believe Paul Beckwith is a very respected scientist and professor, and yeah,
He's a lecturer.
he's a professor.
No, he's a lecturer, not a professor.
He is a professor at the University of Ottawa.
Hmm. I looked up his CV. He's a lecturer, not a professor. He doesn't have a PhD yet.
He's very well respected in the scientific community. He's very well known. He was one of those that didn't agree with Guy McPherson, and now he's starting to realize that Guy McPherson was probably correct. He used to bump heads with him a lot, and he has kids of his own that he's very worried about. And I I don't know. I'm sorry. Paul Beckwith has every bit of credentials as much as the people that you sent to me, like William Happer. He's, I don't know, not very well respected in the community. He's
That's
kind of a nutcase.
Yeah, and scientists that step out of the mainstream are, and that's the underlying theme about science. When Galileo or Newton presented their theories,
Yes, I think scientists
back
are
when,
holding back shit.
I mean, Galileo was almost burned at the cross for heresy. I mean,
That was tell him
it's just the way it goes, and that's one of the reasons that I say that
that was by the church.
I'm not buying the
Okay.
Okay,
whole
believe
narrative.
scientific. I want to see the research papers. Why aren't they? Sorry, Val, but why are they not debunking the current scientific
They are.
papers? They are not. Because they wouldn't be standing. Peer-reviewed papers would not still be standing as scientific peer-reviewed papers if they were debunked.
They are debunked. If you go into JSTOR and then also Google's, unfortunately, you don't have access to JSTOR or the Axel Springer Verlag. Now, this is crazy. I'm just kind of going off on a little tangent here. Axel Springer, the publisher, it's a German publisher, and they publish a tabloid called the Bild-Zeitung. It's tabloid, but yet they have one of the most comprehensive databases on scientific papers in the world. They're up there with Courvoisier and JSTOR and a few others. Unfortunately, you only get access to those for free if you go to a university and go to their library or something, and are not allowed to access the computer in a college library.
Okay, but would they bring
Cost you
those
an insane
papers?
amount of money.
Okay, I don't have access to that
Yeah,
stuff. If you
and
do,
that's
please bring it forward. You should have brought it today and showed us the
yeah. I don't have
abstract
that access
of
anymore.
the. Well, then how do you know it exists?
I've
How
been
long
in it. I've been into it. We had to do a lot of research papers in college,
how
and
long ago
we
was
got into
that?
that database.
How long ago was that? Because a lot of things have changed in the last
Yes, they
5
have
years.
changed. And back then, like I said, I graduated in 2010, so um, it's not that all that it's not all that in far back,
A
but
lot has changed since 2010. A lot. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse.
yeah,
So
I don't see it though.
look at the news.
I don't
You
look at the
never see
news.
that things are not as bad as expected. It's always way worse than expected, worse than anticipated, worse than predicted. It's always worse and worse and worse. Everything is worse. Look at I mean, oceans rising worse, heating of the planet worse, biodiversity loss worse, everything, fires worse, floods worse. Um, everything's just worse.
Ask
So
him. Ask him to tell us what Dunning Kruger is.
what's what? Dunning Kruger?
Ask him to tell us what Dunning Kruger is.
What is Dunning Kruger? Do
Yeah,
you
ask
know?
him.
Mike, do you know what Dunning Kruger is?
No, I don't.
He doesn't know. What's
Okay, Dunning Kruger is some scientist who said that most lay people think that they have more expertise than they really do. So this guy is saying, well, in my opinion, this or that, that it's all fake and it's not true, and these scientists are lying.
so he's a scientist that says
His
that?
qualifications is he's a forester. How does he know more than the top climate scientist in the world? How does he
Okay.
know that?
All right, slow down. Okay, so Dunning Kruger is is it a scientist, Val?
It
Is it a paper? Is it what? What is
it's a study. Dunning
okay,
Kruger
it's a
is a
study. Okay.
study
The
that
study that says
shows
that
that
most laymen think they know
right.
better than the experts in their field. And so he's wondering why you think you know better than the top climate scientists.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know better. Let's put it that way. But I do know bullshit when I see it.
So scientific studies, scientific reports, papers are bullshit?
No, not all of them. There's some that are, and I found more than I
But
wanted to
you
look
know that
at.
they're bullshit because you've been studying climate like your whole entire life or your whole professional
I
life.
haven't been studying climate. I've been watching the weather all my life, but
So have I. And that's just
that's a big difference.
So all
that's
the,
No,
so
you're right.
now
It is a big
when
difference. It doesn't mean dick. I'm sorry. It doesn't
so,
mean dick. What you
yeah,
observe,
what
that
he has is an opinion.
that's an
So
opinion. It exactly, Val. It's an opinion. It's not. I mean, I can observe what's going on, but I'm going to back that up by the. I mean, I could just observe something that's random out of nowhere, but when it's happening year after year, and then there's also scientific studies that are kind of saying that's what's happening. I tend to believe the scientific studies, but if the scientific studies say one thing's happening, but in my area I'm not observing that, I'm not going to automatically think that those scientific studies aren't happening. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, what the data that I got my hands on in college was, or the scientific studies, I should say, or the papers that I reviewed. There was a whole host. There was about 3 or 4 dozen that piggybacked off of one study where a guy went out, collected some data, interpreted it, put it in his paper, and then there was a whole. I mean, it was dozens, literally dozens that piggybacked off of that data. They added theirs, and then they reinterpreted that data. And, you know, it goes back to the computer model thing. Computer models are just that. They're a model, you know, garbage in, garbage
And they've
out.
proven to be so far off the mark and not nearly close to how bad it is. So I don't understand that argument either. They're so underestimating what is happening.
No,
So
Chris,
that
they're
one makes absolutely no sense either. Don't
Chris,
bring that one up with me. What?
Chris,
well, we played with computer models extensively, and you know, like I say, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's just essentially nothing more than a video game. I mean, it's like playing War
Oh
Thunder
my
and saying,
God,
"Hey,
guess who's
Germans won
here?
World War II."
Oh my God, Tim Bob is here. Tim Bob. Holy freaking crap. I am so excited Tim Bob is here. You probably
And
don't know
so,
who he is,
you know,
but
a lot of these so-called scientific papers were based on computer models, and that's fine. I mean, if you're
that's not
basing
true.
your
That's
findings
not
off of what you're putting into a computer and extrapolating that data, okay, that's one thing.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. You're losing me, dude. You're losing me.
most not, most of the climate scientists is on real-time data. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
based. He's saying that it's based entirely on computer models. It's mostly based on real-time data accumulated. Okay,
right.
not computer models.
Well,
That's
there's
just the
real-time
power.
data and there's computer models, but the
Mhm.
real-time data is so much worse than the computer models. I mean, here's the real-time data graph. Here's real time. It's just, how do you miss that? I mean, go to Arctic News Blog. That's a really good site to go and see what's actually happening, and they'll show you all the models compared to what's actually happening right now, and it'll go way back far and show what's happening. We are so far off the charts of what the models were showing. We're I don't understand.
Chris, ask him, how does he explain the 50 inches of rain dropped on Houston during Hurricane Harvey?
Okay,
The
50 inches of rain dropped
the
on
recent
Houston
rain in the
during
Midwest.
Hurricane
How does
Harvey.
he
How do you
explain that?
explain
It's never
that?
happened before.
That's never happened before. What else? Sorry.
The recent floods in the Midwest. Well, they're not recent;
Oh,
they're going on now.
yeah,
It's
the
still
floods in
flooding
the
in the
Midwest
Midwest.
over and over and
It has
over
never
again.
happened.
500-year
What is he
floods are
talking about?
happening
He
in
hasn't
50
noticed it.
years. 500-year floods are happening in like 50 years, 25 years now, like 5 years. They're just happening over and over and over again. How do you explain that?
That's extreme. Those are just extreme weather events. You know, we've had extreme weather events
Over and over and over and over and
over and
over.
over again for, you know, throughout history. That's just
This
No,
is every
it's
couple of
happening
months.
faster and faster, more often and more often.
This is every
that's
couple of
because you
months.
got your nose glued to a TV screen.
No, that's not
That's not
why.
true.
The media coverage of these events
That's
used to be.
no, I'm not going off of the media coverage. Hell, I don't even watch mainstream media because they don't even they don't cover everything. They cover like very minuscule amounts of it. I don't watch that. They hardly cover any of it. It's happening everywhere from coast to freaking coast all over the world. There's major flooding, there's heat waves, there's extraordinary events. They're killing off major animals. There's the bug apocalypse that's happening right now that's going to exterminate, oh my god, I don't know, what was it, Valkyries, is it like 70% of the mass of insects has disappeared in Germany or something like that? Or was that oh my gosh. Anyway, bugs are going extinct. Bugs that we depend on. Whether or
Yeah,
not
we
you
did a
think you
study
depend
on,
on.
we did a study on native pollinators down in Montpelier, which is almost down in your neck of the woods, and the results were concerning to say the least about you know, pollinators in general, because you know the varroa mite has been decimating bee populations
Okay,
all
no,
over
but
the
let's
globe.
not go off into little tiny details. Just explain how what's happening with all the insect. And also Tim Bob wants to know, how do you choose the media you pay attention to?
I don't pay attention to the media at all. I'm paying attention to what's going on the ground out here, and then comparing what I see in the media to what's actually going on, and I'm seeing a whole different picture.
Do you go on to NOAA and NASA?
Yes, I do.
And check in. Well,
Yes.
then how are you not seeing the same things everybody else is seeing?
Because it's NOAA is focused on the North American continent, not on the entire globe. And what I'm seeing here in Western Europe is pretty much
Well, there's
what I've
several
seen all
other
my life
places
here.
that you can find information on the entire globe. I mean,
Chris,
Paul Beckwith has lots of resources. If you go to his page, you can go. He gives you links and everything to places where you can check temperatures, anomalies, all kinds of things happening all over the planet.
he says he's
Yeah.
in Europe. How does he
You
explain?
know, on a positive note here,
How does he explain
the area where I'm living at here in Europe, in my youth, there were no May beetles, and there were hardly any fire salamanders and other amphibians.
And now there's
And
like none.
no, here there are. That's the crazy
Well,
thing.
you're lucky. You're one of those small places that is going to have a really fast, like, when animals are going extinct, one animal will disappear, and then the animal that they preyed on will temporarily like go crazy, like the sea urchins um in the Atlantic Ocean. Is it Atlantic? No, the Pacific Ocean. The sea urchins there went crazy after the sunflower starfish got a disease and died out. Then the sea urchin went freaking nuts and thrived for a while, and then it ate all the kelp forest down. And it's just a chain reaction, and for a short period of time, one species will thrive after their predator has gone extinct or from that locality, and
Yeah.
and then they will make another species go extinct because they are thriving and then over run the area. It's a chain reaction, and it's happening all over the planet. And on top of that, we have ocean acidification that's killing the oceans. There's dead zones. All the coral reefs are dying. I mean, everything is happening right now. Everything's crazy. The reason we're getting ocean acidification is because of all the glaciers melting. I mean, the glaciers in Greenland, forget about the southern hemisphere. That's not nearly doing as bad as the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, it's
Especially
growing.
Greenland is nuts as far as the melting goes. And the Arctic and the Arctic ice. It, like I said before, it's starting to melt a month and a half earlier, and it didn't get the extent that the average extent growth over the winter either.
Well, then explain the extreme ice pack thickness on the Northwest Passage. It's in excess of 5 meters on average thickness, and then there's ridges up to 22 meters thick.
So you're talking about
That's
one
an
little
historic
tiny
high.
area? What?
Give
I
us
mean,
the link. Where are you
yeah,
getting
put
that
some
from?
links. Put some links in there.
Yeah, I was in one of the Arctic data sheets there the other day and looking at that, and I was like, wow,
Okay, tell us where it's
that
at.
just blew me away. The expanse of the ice, of course, isn't at a historic high. But the thickness is, and that was the anomaly that kind of has me going, what's going on here? Because the Northwest, shipping has been wanting the Northwest Passage to open up for ever and a day, and it was open once back in the 50s.
Okay, so wait. The Arctic is melting, and they're all fighting over that area to extract oil now. So if the ice was growing there, why would that be open?
It's not open.
It is open.
The
They're
Northwest
fighting
Passage
over
is
it.
not open. The Northwest Passage is so
Okay,
blocked
up in
up
the
that
Arctic where they're fighting to get to that oil because it's accessible. It's going to be accessible this summer. And they're fighting for that area. If the ice wasn't melting, they've never been able to access that place before.
This guy is claiming that climate denier websites are science sites.
Okay, climate denier websites are not science sites. So
I don't go to
that was
climate denier websites. That's
it.
Okay, then
Really?
tell us which
Yeah.
websites it
What
is.
websites are you going to?
I go to NOAA mainly for the atmospheric data, and then
Okay,
the U.S.
NOAA
Weather
doesn't say
Service.
anything like this. I
Pardon?
haven't seen anything like what you're saying on NOAA. I mean, maybe one little small area. There are some places that are growing, very small areas that the ice is actually growing because they're in an area where it's not affecting them as much. But then the majority of the ice sheets and the glaciers and all that are melting. And we just got through the winter. They shouldn't even be melting yet, but they are.
This,
It's
I'm looking at NOAA right now, and I suggest
okay.
anybody go to it right now, and it's showing graphs that the ice is decreasing.
Yeah, okay.
He's just making this stuff up. I don't know where he's. I'm
Mike,
on NOAA right now.
Mhm.
Go
Val
on.
is
Everybody
is
go
on
on
NOAA
NOAA.
right now. He's
See if
saying
the
that
ice
it's
is
showing the
decreasing.
ice decreasing, which I've checked it too. It always says it's decreasing. So where are you getting this information from?
I don't remember right off the top of my head. I was just looking at a website the other day that I'll have to go back and look for it again.
Okay, well, we're running really
Um,
super late.
I'm looking. I'm
Yeah,
looking at it
I don't
right
have that
now,
one
and it's showing
right off the
major
cuff
decrease.
here. I'll email you that link.
The whole cloth. He's just making.
Okay, Val is having a heart attack over there, saying that he's not seeing any of this, and I haven't either. I don't see what you're seeing. Um, I know there's been cases where some of these sites have like taken small portions of the statistics or the graphs and cut them down to where it looked like the ice was going up when it was just a small portion. And if you look past that, it was just a little up and then it was going down. But they cut the
Okay.
down part off. That's a trick they use. They position that frame right perfect so it looks like it's it's going up, and it's so bullshit. I've seen it over and over again. You got to look at real-time data, and you have to look at the whole big picture, not just a small portion of it. You have to look at it, the whole thing. um Long time data. And anyway, okay, Tim Bob has the question: how does an incredibly Tim Bob, damn it, I'm not going to ask that question.
Okay, this is the National Snow and Ice Data Center is one of the other ones that I found the other day. Here, I'll put the link here in the chat next in the window here.
Okay, do that.
You know, you must really have to look far and wide and look and look and
That
look
was
to
just one
find
of
your
them.
cherry
It
picking data.
shows a overall
Cherry
area
picking
loss,
stuff
but
isn't right.
there was a graph in here somewhere where it showed the ice thickness going up.
And what site is this? You're putting it in the chat?
This is the National Snow and Ice Data Center.
National Ice. Okay. Is this the Antarctica or is it
This is the
the
Arctic. This
Arctic?
is the North Pole.
Okay. Because the Antarctica, they even said in their thing that the information could be deceiving because it shows a greater expanse, but not the thickness, the density of it, the volume.
Ask
Yeah,
Mike.
see, the Antarctic receives very little precip in the course of a year anyway. It's like less than 3 inches overall. So
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I'm
I've known a
laughing at
lot of
our
people that
chatters.
have done research down in the Antarctic, and you know, the ice pack grows extremely slow down there.
Yeah, that's why pieces of ice the size of states have broken
Yeah.
off recently.
I suggest you check out Arctic News blog.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I would check it every day. It shows really, really accurate information, and they update it almost daily. Sam Carana actually runs that blog. Super awesome information, and it's really kind of devastating, but it's really important to know what is going on. But it's really factual. You can't discredit it. If you can, good on you, but I haven't found one scientist that could discredit one thing that Sam Carana has posted in Arctic News blog. So I really suggest you go there. And if you can find someone who can discredit any of that data, please let me know. And I would be happy to discuss it. But for now, we've got to we've been on, well, I've been on since 7 because I thought you were going to be on at 7. I don't know what time it is there. Oh, you're in a different location, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're not even in the country, huh?
Okay. Here's the other website that I went to. I'll send you that link here.
I'm not seeing
Okay.
any of the links.
He's
So.
linking it. He's linking it in the Google Hangout.
I'm putting it in the chat here.
Oh, in the Google chat. Okay.
This is a Danish site. Now the Danes are, seafarers from way back when.
Are you looking at it now?
Looking at it and saying,
and so their interest in the Northwest Passage opening up is of utmost economic importance to them, because they would save a lot of money on passage going through the Panama Canal. They have ships that don't fit through the canal, and either have to go around the Cape of Good Hope or the Horn of Africa. And so if the Northwest Passage were to open up, that would save.
Ariel was here. Sorry, Ariel. I love you, honey. That's my daughter. She was just on here.
The link he just gave. The link he just gave.
Okay, hold on just a second, Mike. I want to hear what Val is reading the link, so I want to hear what
it says. Rapid ice loss in early April leads to new record low. Where is he getting that the ice is increasing? This is the link.
It says rapid ice loss in April leads to early record low.
What is he talking about?
So he doesn't know what you're talking about.
It's saying the opposite of what he's saying. He's saying that the ice is increasing. He gives a link, and the link is saying the opposite of what he said.
Yeah, the link is saying the ice is decreasing, Mike.
Yeah, on the first one it is. The second one, the Danish site, shows contradictory data.
Okay, the second one shows contradictory data. Val, can you look that one up? I'm sorry. We've got to call this to a close fairly soon. Yeah. So
graph illustrates the
Osama.
It's kind of vague. I have to look it over. But the first link that he provided contradicted what he said.
Something about it being vague. He's got to look it over. Yeah.
He's going to sit there and say, "Oh, ice is increasing. I have links." He gives you a link, and the link is saying the very opposite of what he said.
Oh, bye, Julie. Love ya. Sorry. Anthony isn't near death, the most telling part.
So what?
I don't understand, Mike. I'm not getting it. I wish what you said was true, just because I don't want to see the end of our planet. I don't want to see any of that. Well, it's going to happen. Climate change or not, we have a serious problem. So, but
we won't see an end of the planet. What we'll see maybe is an end of humanity. That's a whole different. The planet's going to be here no matter what we do to it.
Well, yeah, it is. But we're going to take a whole bunch of life forms with us, and I don't like
possibly. I also mentioned in an earlier post to you that some species are just on an extinction trajectory. That's the normal way of things. We're on an extinction trajectory, whether we like it or not. At some point in time, the population is going to experience an epidemic like the Ebola outbreak in the Congo. It's just a matter of time before it hits here.
Chris, the second link that he provided.
So who knows what's going to happen as far as the overall population goes? But
the second
link bad. Hold on, just 1 second, Mike. Val just looked up what's going on.
The second link he provided did not show an increase. What it showed was the ice went down and then it slightly went up, very slightly. It did not show an increase. Okay. So both links that he provided did not back up any of his assertions.
Okay, he said that both links, the other one showed
that the ice went down.
Ice is decreasing, and then it was a slow. When is the increase, Val? Is it during the winter or?
Well, I don't know. There's a graph.
Or is it a long-term one?
It's showing Arctic sea ice volume 16 May 2019. So what it's showing is that the ice went down and then it very slightly went up.
So it was going down in May? Because in May it should be.
That's the graph that it's showing, May.
Wow.
And it went down.
The information you're showing is kind of not helping your case here. Just saying.
Both links he provided was the opposite of what his assertions were. Neither one of them said that ice is increasing at all. The second link, what he said was from Sweden or something, said that the ice went down and then it slightly, very slightly went up to the current date of May 16th. No computer models. This is real-time data. Okay? So there was a slight increase going back up. If you look at the link that he provides, there's a graph at the very top. And that's what he's referring to.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sorry, we're just not getting it because even the links you provided are showing the same kind of data that we've been looking at, and it's pointing to the same information.
Well, the Danish site has a little bit more information as far as the ice pack thickness goes. The first one just shows extent. The second one shows the thickness. And so during the course of the winter, you could have walked from North America to clear to Russia, provided you didn't fall into a crevasse and drown. But
oh, that's not true.
The extent is
Val's
not.
saying that's not what it's showing.
That's exactly what it's showing.
I know in Alaska, there's a lot of places where a lot of the ice roads like disappeared even over the dead of winter. There's all kinds of shit going on, and I'm sorry, there's warming and there's a lot of ice melting and a lot of the ice sheet is gone.
Well,
and what you provided, he looked at. Okay, Val, tell me what it said about not the extent, but the volume or the density.
Okay, I'll have to look at it.
He's looking that up.
The second article that he's referring to is not that long. It says read more about the model that the map is based on. The main thing where he's getting that the ice increased was that it dipped, and then in May 2019, it's slightly gone back up, slightly. Okay, but it's not increased. Okay,
it's not increased, it's just slightly gone back up.
Slightly,
very slightly gone back up. It hasn't increased.
Graph that he's showing there, and he's showing sea ice thickness. And according to the graph, you couldn't walk across the Arctic.
According to the graph, you couldn't walk across the Arctic. I don't know what. I'm sorry. I mean, are you by any chance like super Republican and don't want to believe this stuff? Or, I mean, I think Democrats are just as bad and they don't really believe it either, because I'm nonpartisan in my hatred for freaking politicians.
No, politically, I'd call myself more an anarchist than anything else. I'm more closely a follower of Nestor Makhno than I am any of the other mainstream political leanings. I believe in no government, but unfortunately, due to human nature, I recognize the need for some government. Along the line, it's just human nature. You got to have it.
We're all kind of there with you. So, hey, at least we can end it on a good note. We kind of agree with you there. Okay, we'll just.
Yeah. Just to kind of touch on this ice pack thing here. If you go to the Arctic Sea Ice News, the NSIDC, it shows the graph or shows a picture of the extent of the ice pack, and there's a little red dot in the lower right-hand corner of that picture or that graphic, and it shows the former extent, median ice edge 1981 to 2010, and it does show a reduction in the overall ice pack. And so when you look at the overall extent of the ice, the reduction isn't really all that big of a reduction.
Oh, really? It's huge. It's not
a huge reduction. According to Val, I'm not looking at it. I'm just repeating what Val's saying.
It's less than 10%.
He said it's less than 10%.
But it shows a precipitous drop off.
But it's during the time when it should still be growing, because it's a month and a half early and it's melting.
There's not even any bumps up. It's almost like straight down.
There's not an,
I'm
yeah.
looking at it at the top. Okay, Arctic sea ice extent, area of ocean with at least 15% sea ice, and it's from February to June. It's in the years, and it's just going down. Everybody just go on there. He's making these assertions, and everything he's saying is the opposite of what he's saying. It's showing also some.
Okay. All right. Let's just agree that we all just want to get rid of our politicians, and we can agree on that. And I always like to end on a good note if at all possible.
Open season, no bag limit on the politicians.
Yes. Well, we always like to also talk about our Eat the Rich cookbook that we're working on. It'll be called Serve the Rich. And because that's what we're all going to be eating eventually. That's where you're going to start anyway. You know, they'll be nice and juicy and fattened up for us. So, yeah, you probably don't get this humor. It's humor stuff. So,
Before we go, Chris, I'd like to just add one little point here. The way at least foresters would gauge climate change.
just by the
And
rings on the tree and
no. It has
oh,
nothing
oh,
to do
you're
with
not gonna.
the
Sorry, I
trees.
just got that from my husband today, so I was
No.
prepared for that.
We gauge real climate change in the northward expansion of thermophilic plants. In other words, plants that need higher temperatures to grow and thrive. During my years logging up and down the Pacific Northwest, I mean, I worked from the Canadian border all the way down to Southern California, and we actually saw a southward expansion of northern tier trees that were kind of an anomaly. There was a stand of Doug fir down on the Sierra National Forest that we couldn't explain away. The Forest Service was either thinking that it was something that somebody had planted because that pocket population was so far off from the base population that the one explanation was that it was planted. Had it been a natural phenomenon, it would have been a real eyebrow, raised some eyebrows. And the same thing with lodgepole pine. We're seeing a southward expansion of lodgepole pine, and it's actually a tree that likes cold feet, so to speak. It actually prefers colder climates, and so we're seeing a southward expansion of that. So that's one of the reasons that I can say I'm skeptical on the subject.
Yeah, but plants are doing all kinds of weird stuff. I
And
think there's a lot of confusion in the plant world because of the climate weirding where it's warm and then cold and hot, the extreme swings that we're getting. That's the biggest difference I've seen is the huge swings. We've always had pretty, flexible weather. Utah's motto is if you don't like the weather, just wait a
wait 5
minute.
minutes, it'll change.
Yeah, and no, but this year we've seen 80-degree swings within 24 hours, and that's a little unusual. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So there is, and everyone's going to have their own observations. And the thing
Yeah.
is, you've got to look at the whole entire picture and all the science. I mean, if you don't believe in the science, I don't know what to say. I don't, but I do believe in following the science, not what the media is saying because I don't believe they're representing it accurately. Um, but I'm like the opposite of you because I from what I'm reading from science reports and from news stories all over the world, they're downplaying it like horrendously. So that I guess we're just going to have to part ways on that one, but I'm glad we at least agree on dirty politicians and we need to figure out a new way there. Anarchism. Not okay. There's a comment about anarchism is not a romantic fable, but the hard-headed realization based on 5,000 years of experience. I love Osama. It's too bad he couldn't stay and be heard. I don't know what the hell's going on. I never.
Yeah, it's too bad. I kind of would like to hear what Obama had to say, or Osama.
Osama.
Sorry.
Not Obama.
Insult the guy. I'm sorry. That was just a Freudian slip there.
You know that's not his real name, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, we all use
Uh,
handles and stuff, and I'm sure it was a tongue-in-cheek handle that he picked up there.
oh, yeah, there's a reason for it, and
Yeah.
it's funny. But he also says that we cannot entrust the management of our lives to kings, priests, politicians, generals, and county commissioners.
Roger that.
Edward Abbey. So, yeah, Veg, thank you. I will get some sleep. Um, Okay, I'm going to say hello to everybody that I can, that I've missed. But thank you, Mike, for coming. I'm sorry we can't get on the same page on this issue, but um, we ended on a good note. I hope you think so.
Well,
Um,
I'd certainly like to come back. There's a few other points that I'd like to make later on down the line. Just one little recommendation for the folks listening in, and this is what one of the reasons also that I'm a skeptic. There's a little book out on the market called "None Dare Call It Conspiracy" by Gary Allen. It used to be required reading during the Nixon administration in colleges. A colleague of mine that went to UC LA, he recommended the book to me, and so I picked it up and read it. You know, I read it with an open mind, but it certainly opened my eyes. And of course, when I read it, I'd been off the grid, so to speak, for a long time. I weaned myself off of television in 1989 1989 when I moved to Elk City, Idaho. We just didn't have TV reception up there, and I had no ambitions to paying for cable television. So I could see that what was being printed in the papers, and when I'd go down to my dad's house, what was being said in the media didn't jive with what was going on the ground out in the real world. So I kind of was at a loss how to explain it all. And then that work colleague of mine turned me on to that little book. And so I recommend to everybody that, go out and find a copy of that book, read it, and then kind of start formulating your own opinions as to, the overall picture. You just got to step back from the whole thing and just take an overall broader view of the whole political system, the media, and the whole works, and that's one of the reasons I'm basically an anarchist. I just divorced myself from that whole shit and mess.
yeah, I think I pretty much have too, but I don't think the environment thing really has much to do with politics. That's a totally separate issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's been politicized to the hilt.
It totally has been, and it's been confused. There's been a
Mhm.
lot of misinformation to where
Yeah,
a lot of people don't know what the truth is and what's
yeah,
not. There's money
exactly.
thrown at certain places. We all agree on that. So um, we definitely disagree on the conclusions. I buy what science is saying. Um, and the reports and the peer-reviewed reports and news stories that I
He
hear
knows
across the
right.
world.
He's
But
nice.
okay, Val, thank you so much for popping in. I wish we could hear you. Um, but yeah, we've got to get out of here. Just let me say goodbye to people. But thank you, Mike. If you want to hang out for a second, I'll talk to you for a
Sure.
second after. But let me say bye to let's see. Human, thank you. That was so hilarious about your mom having a humor with your name because I think that's just hilarious. Adam Thomas, thanks for coming. Oh my God, Tim Bob, thank you for showing up on my stream. I'm so honored. That was really freaking cool. S. Shiva, love you. Um, let's see, Trev, you're awesome. Anita, awesome. Veg, of course, you're amazing. Did I forget to send you a link? Damn it. Oh wait, no, Monday. Veg. You'll get a link on Monday. Um, human, yeah, that's okay. Robin Data, think about the food grain crops, forget about the Arctic ice. Yeah, the food grain crops are gonna suck bad. We are gonna have a hard time with that. Osama, sorry you couldn't be heard, damn it. Um, All right, guys. Let's see. I hope I didn't miss anybody. It's so hard to get everybody in. Anita, I got you. I think Jilly Love. I'm sure you left already, but thank you for coming. We love Jilly Love. Anthony Davis. Okay. Adam Thomas. I think I said hello to everybody. Anthony, Dave, yeah, Tim. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. We are gonna call it a night. If I can get my screen to where I can find the goodbye button. Seriously, I lost it. Okay. Bye, guys. We'll talk to you soon.